everybody, and welcome back this fine Monday afternoon for TJ's Talkshow. We got an action-packed segment here. This first segment is going to be about baseball and all their hot stove action that took place over the weekend since my last broadcast on Friday. So let's go ahead and jump right into it since I have a good chance of rambling on for 15 minutes. So this is going to be mainly about baseball. I'll have another couple segments here shortly after this baseball segment. So there'll probably be another broadcast talking about basketball and football. But for right now, we're going to dive right into the weekend's hot stove activity. And it started out early, or I believe it was late Friday evening. Matt Holliday, former St. Louis Cardinal, signed a one-year deal, $13 million contract with the New York Yankees. So that was a fairly big splash in the free agent market because, Matt Holliday is still a guy that can produce. His story was the Cardinals told him going into the last homestand last season that they were not going to exercise his $17 million option. Ended up turning into a big moment. He hit a home run and a key RBI in a ball game that could have pushed them out or got them more into the playoffs. So it was very emotional. He got to say his goodbye to the St. Louis faithful, and now he will move north to New York with the Yankees. And the Yankees have been fairly consistent with what they're trying to do the last few years. Sign a bunch of, not to mean they can't produce, but a bunch of older guys, a bunch of veterans who produce and try to keep their farm system. So they throw money at older guys. A couple years ago it was Carlos Beltran, and now Matt Holliday. $13 million for a one-year guy who could still play. Don't get me wrong, Matt Holliday's not no slouch, but they're trying to keep their farm system, and instead of trading their farm system for established guys that are under team control, they're going out and just signing these veterans who know how to get the job done so they can teach these young guys what it's like on a daily basis, to go through the grind of a season. So Matt Holliday going over, and most likely, in my guess would be he takes over the DH position, especially with Carlos Beltran no longer there, who's on the free agent market, or he was, I should say. He signed today. This is when it became official, but he'll most likely take over the DH duty. He can play a little bit of outfield, but going into his mid-30s, I don't see him really doing too much more than just being a DH, but could be a big addition for the Yankees, a guy with a lot of pop. So that, once again, Matt Holliday signs with the Yankees, $13 million deal over 1 year. Also, Steve Pearce, former Oriole and Pirate, goes over to Toronto, and that pretty much signifies that Edwin Encarnacion will not be re-signed by the Blue Jays, since they signed Kendrys Morales early in the offseason. The Blue Jays did, and now adding infield, outfield utility guy Steven Pearce really pretty much puts Edwin as the odd man out. I was reading an article earlier. Smoke and Morales, or Smoke and Pearce, will platoon over at first base, and Pearce will also platoon with Morales as the team's DH. So, things weren't looking good for Edwin after the Morales deal, but now he's going to find a new team to play for. Encarnacion will, with this Pearce signing, and that's a 2-year deal worth $12.5 million over those 2 years, so about $6.25 per season. Like I just mentioned, he can play infield, outfield. I see him more as a first baseman, DH type guy. You just based on track record, he's more of an infielder type guy. He knows how to play the outfield, but he's not the next, Mike Trout or anybody special. He can piece it together for you, but he's kind of, he's better than a Schwarber or an Evan Gattis in the outfield, but he's not a Dexter Fowler, Jason Hayward, Ender Encarnacion, or Inciarte, type guy. So I mean, he can fill the position if you need him to, but he's projected to be more first base / DH. So that also brings up the question: where's Edwin going to go now? He thought he was going to be re-signed by the Blue Jays. He wanted to go back to the Blue Jays, but he turned down their initial 4-year, $80 million offer because he's worth well more than that. So no surprise turning it down, but now he's going to have to go find a new place to play, and that's pretty much where all the attention is on the hot stove, because he pretty much sends everything else into a domino effect with all these power guys like a Bautista and Justin Turner, sorry. This is going to send a big domino effect for whenever Encarnacion signs. A lot more movement. Rich Hill re-signed with the Dodgers after his stellar year this past season. Also had a huge postseason where he was virtually unhittable. He signed a 3-year, $48 million contract. And to a lot of people, that doesn't sound like a lot. But Rich Hill's been one of those guys throughout his career who makes below average pay when it comes to starting pitching. So this is his first real big contract. And like I said, $48 million doesn't sound like a whole lot, especially when you got guys like Stanton, 122, or Kershaw, $200 million. I mean, it doesn't sound completely... I mean, it's ridiculous on how expensive some of these guys are. And for Rich Hill, this was a huge contract for him. So congrats to Rich Hill for getting that big contract in his eyes, $48 million, to go back with the Dodgers. And hopefully he can repeat the kind of season he had, because it was definitely one that got him that paycheck. And hopefully he can stay true to what got him that money. Also, big news today. Mark Melancon, former closer for the Pirates, signed a 4-year, $62 million deal with the San Francisco Giants, who desperately needed a closer. So that's a huge hole that they just filled there. Melancon's a big save guy. He converted 98 of 102 in the last 2 years, which is best in the majors in that span. So this guy is the real deal. This is a guy you can plug in the ninth inning, and almost as sure thing as Steph Curry shooting a free throw as a save being converted. So big sign there for the Giants, who got that closer they needed. Sergio Romo couldn't quite close out as many ball games as years past, so that was a concern. And so they went out and did what any good team's going to do, and that's find someone who's proven that he can do it time and time again. And Melancon is that guy, and he got a pretty hefty deal, 4 years, $62 million. So that's a big thing. So that NL West is going to be very competitive, with the Giants and Dodgers both making moves today. So it's definitely not going to be an easy task to win that division. All other news, Carlos Beltran no longer in New York. He is now with the Houston Astros, who signed him to a 1-year, $16 million deal. I don't really see him playing too much outfield, but who knows? I'm not a GM or a manager, but I mean, he could probably play a little bit of outfield. But I mean, with Evan Gattis and those guys coming up in that farm system that the Astros have, I don't really see too many places besides maybe the DH where Carlos Beltran can go. And he does have a ton of experience, and he is a switch hitter, so that definitely helps him. But they're just trying to be competitive. The Astros are, they got a pretty young, pretty good pitching rotation and bullpen and stuff like that. So they're just trying to sew up a few loose ends, and hopefully for them, Beltran's that guy that can piece together a pretty decent year. He's returning home. I believe he's a Houston native. He was born in Beltran, I believe, was in Puerto Rico. But anyway, I believe he lives in Houston is what I'm trying to say. So he goes home, you could say, with Houston. It could be a big signing for the Stros, and who are trying to stay competitive in that AL West. So the West Coast team's really making some moves this weekend, which is good for them because those two divisions have been, besides from the Dodgers and Giants in the NL West, most teams haven't really been able to make much noise throughout a season. I mean, you had the Diamondbacks throw all that money last year, and that didn't really pan out for anybody, including, they just threw around a lot of money and unfortunately couldn't piece it all together. So the West trying to stay competitive in both divisions. So that's all the signings that happened over the weekend. So pretty busy with the winter meetings starting to get underway in DC. So we expect a lot more action to be moving along here. You got some decent pieces off the hot stove. So Justin Turner, Encarnacion, Kenley Jansen, those guys are all still out there, and they're all going to be asking for a lot of money, and we'll see where they all end up. And then also, let's talk a little bit about Andrew McCutchen, who's been swirling in the trade rumors the last week or so. Last week, the Nationals were up there as one of the top teams to go get him, give up one of their top outfielding prospects and maybe a couple pitchers or something along those lines is what they were originally thinking. No deal was made as of yet, but they're still in the running for McCutchen. A few other teams that have noted to have interest are the Dodgers. Imagine that. Dodgers always trying to get the best available, whether trade or free agency. The Giants, another team, really trying to get a guy who can shore up that outfield for them. The Rangers are also a team interested. They're looking for a lot of outfield help. And then there's also been a mystery team that's yet to come out as to who they are. But that's definitely a team to keep your eye on, is that mystery team. Hopefully more details about that team come out here shortly so we can really try to dissect what kind of trade would be in motion. And I've also heard the Nationals are still trying to get Chris Sale and McCutchen. So definitely the Nationals are trying to really make a huge splash this offseason. They definitely got some parts to do both. But it'll definitely be interesting to see. McCutchen's got a $14 million salary this season, so that's something you also got to take into effect, because not every team in the league can just, hey, let me take over this $14 million contract and still be competitive, because that's a lot of money for an outfielder who's declined a little bit over the last couple of years, but still a leader first and foremost. So that's definitely something that could be interesting to see where McCutchen lands, if at all. He might. The Pirates might just be looking at options in case something really bad or something, think 2017 doesn't look like it's going their way in the playoff race, and they want to start the rebuilding process. McCutchen would be the first guy to go, since he'd get you a lot. He'd get you the most out of any potential trade. So, that's, maybe they're just listening for options for now, but anyway, that's about all we have time for in this MLB segment. So I'm going to go ahead and get another one started here shortly. Going to talk a little basketball and Russell Westbrook. So go ahead, tune in, check back in about 45 seconds to a minute, and we'll get started with that basketball segment. If you're not going to tune into that, thank you so much for listening to this baseball segment, and I hope you guys will listen in tomorrow. This is TJ's Talk Show.